A lot of our weavers now have been with us since we started weaving, which is about 15 years ago, and very strong members of a team. So, you know, they've studied and worked apprenticeships in older mills. The foundations are there for people to learn the skills. Kilt making's harder because every kilt is different. You have to work out the sizing of the waist and the seat measurement to the pattern of the material. So you find every kilt is a unique piece of art, really. A good quality kilt should really retail anywhere from 350 to 450 upwards. And, you know, we have them now at £20 on the Royal Mile. So it's a bit of a sort of last frontier of good quality Scotland right next to Edinburgh Castle in this building. Now, if you walked into Harvey Nichols and looked at a product you could buy for £375, it's not going to be 8 yards of pure wool woven in Scotland. It's not going to be a made-to-measure garment. For it to be made in Scotland by really good quality kilt makers, I feel it's really worth the investment. We're going into the workshop now where the kilt makers are, and I've not warmed them, we're coming in. Here's Ali, our main male kilt maker. Here we wave Ali.
Hello.
He's quite shy. And Donna, our head kilt maker. Hello, how are you doing? This is where like customers' orders are produced, put together. This is John, he's our longest serving
Hello, John.
team member. How long?
26 years.
26 years. He used to babysit me.
Yeah, a long time ago.
We're all very close here.
A company that still looks after its staff, that's good to see, isn't it?
No one else would take him.
I know now, like.
Donna, how long has Donna been here? 25 years. So Donna, our head kilt maker. Yeah, 25 years. One other very important thing with a kilt is the heavy pressing it gets. 80 pounds worth of pressure put on every kilt. Before a kilt's pressed, it's a bit sort of puffy and a bit, you know, it needs to be freshened up and properly flattened out. You know, it takes out things like chalk marks and the tailoring marks. So, I mean, this is a very important part of kilt making, and any good kilt makers that actually makes kilts should really be doing that in-house themselves. If it's done wrong, the pleat can get badly pressed and out of shape. It can even make the pattern look out of shape. You know, because really the art of kilt making is to make sure the pattern is the same on the back as it is on the front and get rid of all the material into the pleatage. Now, if that gets pressed like that and it's twisted and it's not completely straight, it's going to look awful.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it's a flawed bit of kilt.
Yeah. There's quite a bit of training in that. You know, I mean, John, like, you know, probably does it with his eyes shut. A few years ago, we worked with the Scottish Qualification Authority to create an SQA for kilt making. And we got very far with it, and it is all agreed to. Our apprentices really do work 2 to 5 years. I mean, 2 years they're considered full kilt makers, but, you know, 5 years till they're fully up to verse and have made kilts in a lot of different materials to be able to go away anywhere and plan without guidance any tartan into a kilt, because that's where the art form is taking 8 yards of material and working it all into such a small space of a man's back. You know, I mean, 1 yard is used on the front and the inside apron, so you're losing about 1.5 yards, 2 yards, just in the front of the kilt and the 2 layers, and then the back of the kilt, the pleating, that's where most of the yardage goes into. We try and keep our kilt makers for as long as possible, treat them as well as possible, and also offer older kilt makers this SQA so that they have an actual qualification. And it's very good for young kilt makers as well, young apprentices at like 16, 17 years old. It should be something that young people really see as a proper, genuine trade to learn, like a plumber, a joiner, a carpenter. And you know, once you are a fully qualified kilt maker, you could technically travel the world, put a little advert in any yellow pages, you know, just under kilts, kilt maker, seamstress, you know, and you will get people contacting you to make private kilts. And tartan and kilts, I feel, are two very separate things. One's a fabric and one's a garment. So that's something I've learned being involved in the company, that I won't ever, you know, try and destroy the kilt. I always try and just grow it and evolve it. I know I've developed the kilt into the 21st century with the modern kilts because I've had such a good grounding foundation from my family in the traditional wear. You know, when I wear a denim kilt, I truly believe that's a proper evolution of a kilt, that it's a modern material but made very well, made in Scotland, and it's, you know, a garment being evolved. It comes down to personal preference and sometimes a bit of bravery. That it is a man's piece of clothing, it is comfortable, it's made for men, and a proper kilt, like I say, it's 8 yards of material, so you get a lot of pleatage, and you feel very secure in a kilt. The cheap kilts at £20 are a couple of yards of really nasty material that don't hold their shape and don't swing, so a man trying a £20 kilt can be easily put off ever wearing a kilt ever again, and that's why it's so serious that Scottish people and people around the world looking at buying a kilt need to realise that something at £20, £50, $100, £100 isn't going to give them the satisfaction of wearing a proper kilt. At the moment I'm working with a member of the European Parliament on a PGI, which is a protective geographical indicator for the kilt. So basically anything to be called a kilt needs to have either the prefix Scottish kilt or Scots kilt. And those three parameters will be that it's hand sewn, made in Scotland and pure wool. So for example, my denim kilts, it'll always be called a denim kilt or a 21st century kilt. You can't just call it a kilt. Anything can be called a skirt. A kilt is a form of skirt. But when something is such good quality and there's such pride and legacy in it, then it needs to be protected. Champagne and Parmesan cheese and whiskey can be protected. And why not a kilt that is so renowned worldwide as Scottish national dress? A man buying a kilt at 21 years old, it can be made with adjustment and it can last his entire life, if not even passing it on to children and grandchildren even. I know a lot of men that wear their grandfather's kilts, and it's a very nice thing to be able to do.